Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 8 2021 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic this past week, it was a good week. Once again, back-to-back weeks in a row with winning records against the spread and straight up. So far this week against the spread and straight up, I am 7-4-1 against the spread, which equals up to 62.5%, and straight up, it equals up to 67% straight up. And now overall for the year against the spread and straight up, I am climbing up again. My percentages, actually technically for my straight up record this week, I went down a little bit. So far against the spread this year, I am 49-55-2 against the spread. The second push of the year came with the Atlanta Falcons-Dolphins game. When I put the line down, they were 2-point favorites. I took Atlanta -2. They won by 2, so that was a push. And straight up now, I am 68-38 straight up, which equals up to 47.2% against the spread. And straight up, I am at 64.2% straight up. So I am just going to go directly into my picks. I will discuss what happened throughout the week with my explanations later. Before I get into my picks, it is still the bye season, and after having bye-mageddon last week, there's only 2 byes this week, so there's a 15-game slate for everybody to pick from. The Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders are on byes this week, so if you have the Ravens defense, Lamar Jackson, Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews, Josh Jacobs, Derek Carr, Daniel Carlson, Darren Waller, if you have any of those players on your fantasy teams, bench them because they will not be playing this weekend in Week 8 of the season. Alright, so time for my picks. So, on Thursday, in the game of the year so far, in the best game of Week 8, on Week 8 Sunday, happening on a Thursday, when the 6-1 Green Bay Packers travel to Arizona to take on the 7-0 Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are 3.5-point favorites in this game, giving the Arizona Cardinals here -3.5, and the Arizona Cardinals straight up. And then on Sunday, when the 3-4 Carolina Panthers travel to Atlanta to take on the 3-3 Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons are 2.5-point favorites in this game, giving the Atlanta Falcons here -2.5, and the Atlanta Falcons straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-5 Miami Dolphins, the 1-6 Miami Dolphins travel to Buffalo to take on the 4-2 Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are 13.5-point favorites in this game, giving the Miami Dolphins here +13.5, but I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills straight up. And then the next game, when the 2-4 San Francisco 49ers travel to Chicago to take on the 3-4 Chicago Bears. San Francisco 49ers are 3.5-point favorites in this game, giving the San Francisco 49ers -3.5 and the San Francisco 49ers straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-3 Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Cleveland to take on the 4-3 Cleveland Browns. In one of my upsets of the week, I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers here +3.5 and the Pittsburgh Steelers straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-5 Philadelphia Eagles travel to Detroit, the Motor City, to take on the 0-7 Detroit Lions. The Philadelphia Eagles are 3-point favorites in this game, giving the Philadelphia Eagles here -3 and the Philadelphia Eagles straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-2 Tennessee Titans travel to Indianapolis to take on the 3-4 Indianapolis Colts. The Tennessee Titans are 1-point favorites in this game, giving the Tennessee Titans here -1 and the Tennessee Titans straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-2 Cincinnati Bengals travel to New York to take on the 1-5 New York Jets. The Cincinnati Bengals are 9.5-point favorites in this game, giving me the Cincinnati Bengals here -9.5 and the Cincinnati Bengals straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-1 Los Angeles Rams travel to Houston to take on the 1-6 Houston Texans. The Los Angeles Rams are 14.5-point favorites in this game. I'm going to put this quick disclaimer out here. Tyrod Taylor is coming back to practice this week. I have read that earlier. So if Tyrod Taylor is starting this game, I'm going to switch my against the spread pick, and I will take Houston +14.5. But with that status up in the air, I'm going to stick with the Los Angeles Rams -14.5 and the Los Angeles Rams straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-4 New England Patriots travel to Los Angeles to take on the 4-2 Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers are 5.5-point favorites in this game, giving the Los Angeles Chargers here -5.5 and the Los Angeles Chargers straight up. And then the next 2 games, when the 1-5 Jacksonville Jaguars travel to Seattle to take on the 2-5 or 3-4 Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks here to win straight up, but the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 3.5. Then the next game, when same thing, or same spread, when the 2-5 Washington football team travels to Denver to take on the 3-4 Denver Broncos. The Washington football team are 3.5-point underdogs against the Denver Broncos. I'm going to do the same pick as I did with Jacksonville Seattle. I'm going to take Washington plus 3.5, but the Denver Broncos straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to New Orleans to take on the 4-2 or 3-3 New Orleans Saints. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 5-point favorites in this game. Give it to Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. -5 and Tampa Bay Buccaneers straight up. Then the next game on Sunday night, when the 5-1 Dallas Cowboys travel to Minnesota to take on the 3-3 Minnesota Vikings. The Dallas Cowboys are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Dallas Cowboys here -2.5 and Dallas Cowboys straight up. And finally, in the Monday night game, when the 2-5 New York Giants travel to Kansas City to take on the 3-4 Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs are 10-point favorites in this game. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs here to win straight up, but I'm going to take the New York Giants plus 10. Alright, it's time for my quick thoughts in each game. The Arizona Cardinals over the Green Bay Packers. This, to me, is the game of the week and one of the best games of the season. Both teams coming in at a combined 13-1. The Packers, after that abysmal opening Week 1 performance against the New Orleans Saints, have been on an absolute tear the last 6 weeks. Aaron Rodgers has been completing nearly 71% of his passes, 15 TDs to only 1 interception. Devontae Adams has been doing his job dominant. Robert Tonyan had a big touchdown on National Tight End Day yesterday. Matt LaFleur, through his 3 years, 17-2 at home, been an absolute dominance and consistency to the Packers that I've been impressed with. And their defense over the last couple weeks, since they've added linebackers such as Whitney Merciless and Jalen Smith, it has gotten better. There are some issues in the secondary that I'm concerned of injuries. Kevin King and, of course, Jair Alexander's been on the IR. He's been dealing with an injury himself, so he hasn't been able to play that often. But they've been able to pretty much stifle a lot of, decent passing games. I thought, Taylor Heineke was not very accurate. They caused about 2 or 3 fumbles that they were only able to recover 1. But I've been real impressed of how consistently the Packers have been playing since Rodgers from Week 1. He looks more confident. He looks relaxed. But here is the problem. The Arizona Cardinals are the best team in football, bar none, in my opinion. They have been dominant. They're the only undefeated team left. They're the only time in franchise history that they were undefeated was back in 1972 when they were the St. Louis Cardinals. Not to be confused with the baseball team. But they have been dominant. 5 of their 7 wins have been by double digits. 4 of their 7 wins have been at least by 17 points or more. 3 of them have been an absolute blowout. So the Titans they blew them out. They blew out the Browns, and I forget the other team. They blew out the Browns, they blew out the Titans, and they blew out the Texans. Yeah. So 3 of their 7 wins have been absolute blowouts. 4 of them have been by 17 points or more. 5 of them have been by double digits. And the Cardinals, I just feel like they're healthier. I feel like if they double-team Devontae Adams, they should be able to limit the rest of the passing game from the Packers because they really haven't all really been that greatly effective. Lazard had a nice game yesterday. I think he had 60 yards and a nice touchdown. Aaron Jones only ran the ball for 19 yards. I think they're going to need more of a ground game to go against this Cardinals defensive front. And also, I feel like with the Cardinals, this is a tough place for Aaron Rodgers to play. Everybody likes to point out, with facts, that Aaron Rodgers has had a difficult time in Florida, especially in Jacksonville and Tampa over the years. In Miami, I think he's lost the game against Miami a few years ago. But Arizona's been a horrible place for him too. He's lost plenty of games over the years. I think he's lost like his last 3 or 4 games in Arizona since he's been a Packer, and it's just and they've been in face mask game in the 09 in Aaron Rodgers' first playoff game. The Hail Mary game where Rodgers got 2 big Hail Mary throws to tie the game, only for Larry Fitzgerald to run through the rest of the defense and Carson Palmer to shovel pass it. You had the 2017 game or the 2016 game where the Cardinals were pretty much consistently dominating them in a tough thrashing. And I just like what the Cardinals have more as a complete team compared to the Packers. The Cardinals have more receiving core. They have better depth of weapons. Kyler's been incredibly accurate. After that slow start with the safety, the knee injury, and the field goal afterward, they shut out the Houston Texans the rest of the way through. They got another 4 turnovers on Davis Mills. And I just really like where this Cardinals team is going. And I'm going to trust the Cardinals defense to be able to get a few more stops, and the Cardinals offense, from what you've seen from the Saints and the Bengals, that against offenses that have multiple weapons, the Packers have a tough time, controlling them. And the kicking matchups without a push, I take Crosby a little bit right now. But I like the Cardinals here in this game. I think they're more talented, they're at home, they're more rested. And Joe Barry, their defensive coordinator, I just found this out. Unfortunately, I tested positive for COVID-19. Hopefully a quick and speedy recovery for him. But not having their defensive coordinator in person on the road, I think, will be huge. And I think it's not going to be like the Kingsbury against the Browns. I think the Packers are going to struggle a bit more just because Joe Barry is not there due to his illness or in his battle with COVID-19. So that's why I like the Arizona Cardinals here, -3.5, and the Arizona Cardinals straight up. The next game, the Atlanta Falcons over the Carolina Panthers. I'm taking the Atlanta Falcons here very much because I've been impressed with the Falcons. From their 0-2 start, where they got blown out by the Eagles, and they were pretty much competitive with Tampa Bay up to about the fourth quarter when Matt Ryan gave up 14 points to make that a 17-point decisive win for the Bucs. Though I heard a lot of betting people. The Falcons have won 3 of their last 4 games. They've won them by a combined score, I believe, 13. So again, that's not a great margin of victory. 4-point wins. A couple things here, a couple things there that go their way, don't go their way. They probably are looking at a 1-win scenario to where they're at the lower tier, trying to think about what are they going to sell. But the Falcons back at 500, the way they've been playing. They got 2 big turnovers on Tua, which I thought were huge. Cordero Patterson has been running really well for them, and he's been also a decent receiver for them and catching touchdowns and being able to get rushing touchdowns. Kyle Pitts having the most receiving yards from a tight end through his first 6 starts in NFL history. Job well done to him. If it wasn't for Jamar Chase, I think that Kyle Pitts could definitely be in that offensive rookie of the conversation. But I think he's kind of somewhere between 6 to 9 in that way. But that pick looks like it's really working well. And the other problem is, ladies and gentlemen, the Carolina Panthers, just like the Denver Broncos in the AFC, their counterparts, are massive frauds. Because after what you saw through weeks 1 and 3 against teams that are combined now 2-11, and then you have 5 and 9, and then 5 and 15 through the first 7 weeks of the season. And then you see what they've done the last 4 weeks. Sam Darnold's committed a turnover in every single one of those games. He looks lost. He was getting abused by the defensive line of the Giants. The Panthers' offensive line could not protect him to save his life. They really value Christian McCaffrey, which was stunning to me to find out. And I didn't realize how valuable McCaffrey was. But he's only been able to play in 6 of their last 24 games, and it seems like when he's not there, that offense just cannot do anything. Chuba Hubbard only had, I think, a little under 30 yards on the ground. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Ian Thomas, Trimble could not catch anything. That was mostly on Sam Darnold's arm, I thought, of his throws. But it was just a brutal game all around. And after just looking at that game and seeing how bad the Panthers were, they were getting clowned and owned by the New York Giants, I had to take the Falcons to win this game. I think the Falcons, they're at home. They've been a little more consistent. The last time they were home, they were pretty ticked off in the way they choked the game against the football team. I think this Panther team is coming in not nearly as confident. Matt Rule basically gave Sam Darnold the kiss of death in terms of his future when he said that, well, we had to bench him to provide a spark. And P.J. Walker did not provide any spark for them at all. He looked a little bit better than Darnold, but not by much. And I just feel like for the Falcons, this is one of those games that hopefully they don't get lulled into sleep. But I can understand now why the Carolina Panthers have re-engaged with the Houston Texans on the Deshaun Watson trade talks. I really do feel like for the Panthers owner, David Tepper, who is an aggressive individual, one of the most aggressive in the league, he will willingly take the PR backlash and resistance from bringing Deshaun Watson in for the sake of getting this Panthers team into the playoffs, because they are still fighting for a playoff spot, but definitely nobody will take them seriously moving on, and they're definitely on the verge of losing their playoff spot with the way they've been playing over the last several weeks. So that's why I like the Atlanta Falcons here, -2.5, and the Atlanta Falcons straight up. The next game, the Buffalo Bills over the Miami Dolphins. I am taking the Buffalo Bills here even with the injuries to Dawson Knox, even with the issues on the offensive line, but looking at the Bills, they're better than the Dolphins. They just are. Top to bottom, quarterback, the running games, I'd give maybe Miami a little bit of an edge there because I think but receiving core, defensive line, secondary, the Dolphins are just dealing with injuries with Will Fuller, Devontae Parker could not go. He might be able to go this week. He was close, but he ended up being out. The secondary is not great. They've had moments. Kyle Pitts, like I was telling you before, leads the league, or leads tight ends for tight end history through his first 6 starts of his career. Thankfully for the Dolphins, Dawson's not there. But they do have Tyler Kroft. I like Gabriel Davis. And I just think the Bills are motivated. They know they should be a 5-1 football team and arguably the best team in the entire conference. Actually, generally the best team in the entire conference after what everything happened last week. The Bills blew out the Dolphins back in week 2, 35-0, because Tua went down and then knocked all the air out of the balloon for the Dolphins. Do I think they're going to play that bad? No, and that's why I have them at plus 13.5. Because Tua threw for a career high in touchdowns. He threw 4 touchdowns, kept them within the game, but he had 2 big turnovers, one in the red zone and the other one in the red zone area that basically was the difference in the game for the Falcons to win. I just think the Bills, the last time they were up there, Tua was, it was a Week 17 scenario. Went in for the Dolphins to get in. The Bills absolutely shredded them. I think it was like 49-10 or 49-17. It was not a great game by any means. And I still think the Bills are that dominant of a team. I just think it's one of those things where Miami, I'm going to give Miami some credit. Like, you look at the last, few weeks. True, they beat the Patriots in week 1, and they've lost 6 straight after that. They haven't been horrible in a lot of those games. They've been close. There's been some bad coaching decisions or tough breaks. But I feel like in this one, Miami going up to the cold in Buffalo, who knows what the weather's going to be like. I think Buffalo kind of stagger. I think they hang in with the Dolphins for about 3 quarters, and then by the end, the Bills kind of get away to that 10-point win range. And it's also a division game. So I feel like with the Dolphins, understanding the pressure, understanding what's on the line, I think they'll play a bit better. They have a lot of things to improve on from the last time they went to Buffalo. But I will take the Dolphins plus 13 because of the division rival aspect, but the Bills clearly are just a better football team. So that's why I like the Buffalo Bills here to win straight up with the Miami Dolphins plus 13.5. The next game, the San Francisco 49ers over the Chicago Bears. This is a game to where the biggest reason why I took the Niners was because I saw what the Bears did against the Bucks. And I'm not saying, look, did anybody expect the Bears to win unless you're a diehard Bears fan? No. Okay? And there's no shame in losing to the Bucks and Tom Brady and all that fun stuff. There's a difference to where in one half the man has 31 points and then you can leave and the game ended up being 38-3. They literally played a half. It was garbage time. The rest of the game, Justin Fields had 5 turnovers. It was like it was only him, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Nathan Peterman over the past 10 years have had that many turnovers in one game. Though I do feel bad for him because that first one apparently the headset broke down in his helmet and he was told that there were 12 men on the field. So basically he chucked it up like last week and it ended up being an interception by D. Delaney in the same way it was Adrian Amos the week before. But just that Bears offense was so bad. Khalil Herbert was the only bright side of the bright spot of the offense. Everything else the Bears tried to do passing, the Bears tried to do with screens. Like, it was just awful all around. And I feel like with the Niners, Deebo Samuel has been behind Devontae Adams the most percentage of an offense in the NFL. I also like Elijah Mitchell. He had a really good 100-yard game back from his injuries. They still have Jermichael Hasty, who's not bad. And I kind of feel like with the Niners, they can get Trent Williams back. That'll be a massive plus. And also, I just think with the Bears' lack of creative offensive line ability to protect, I think the Niners' pass rush can cause enough pressure to get Justin Fields more off the spot compared to Jimmy Garoppolo. Look, Jimmy Garoppolo was not great last night. I took him to win. And I got a lot of egg on my face. That's the one pick out of the whole week. If I had to change one and go back in time, I'd change that one. But he had the team had 4 turnovers. He had 3 himself. He had 2 picks and a fumble at the worst time. Kyle Shanahan And, and I will say this again to everybody. What? I am finally happy that people are starting to come around to Kyle Shanahan being a fraud of a head coach. I really am. Because I don't think this guy is very good. He seems lifeless, inept. He doesn't know what challenges to do. Like when he threw down that flag for that challenge, that was one of the dumbest challenges I've ever seen. And the fact that he was like, well, let's just keep it anyway. He burned a timeout for them, that was working. And D'Amico Ryans, okay? And I guess I'm just going a quick little diatribe here, and any Niners fans will push back, or anybody who wants any disagreements with my thoughts on the Niners. D'Amico Ryans, a very decent linebacker, great pick out of Alabama for Houston, played for Philadelphia a couple years. Now he's the defensive coordinator there in San Francisco. Look, Robert Saleh is not doing great in New York. He's not. But my God, that Niners defense is garbage. Garage. Because that secondary, the Colts had 90-plus yards in Carson Wentz through PI penalties. Every one of the Niners defensive backs got a PI penalty throughout the game except Jimmy Ward. So bravo to Jimmy Ward. He gets to be out of that club for this week. So everybody that was hyping up D'Amico Ryans, is he really that good? Is Kyle Shanahan really that good? Look, John Lynch has had a rough time as well. Okay, I'm not going to absolve him too. But this 49ers team, I hope the San Francisco 49ers realize that they made a massive mistake hiring that overrated tool in Kyle Shanahan by the end of the year. Because, here's the thing. The other reason why I'm taking the Niners too is the Bears just announced earlier that Matt Nagy has COVID-19. So he probably won't be able to coach this week at home. So, he'll be giving the play calling duties to the coordinators. You could argue that would be a good thing. But I just can't trust that with how banged up the Bears defense is. Khalil Mack's playing off an injured foot. The offense really wasn't that inspiring. And that Niners defensive line for themselves should be able to get through the Bears offensive line. Especially with Jason Peters leading the way at his old age. But if the Niners somehow blow this game against the Bears, I really feel like that Kyle Shanahan at the end of this year will rightfully get fired. If he does not, he is basically offensive Jeff Fisher. That's how bad Kyle Shanahan is in my opinion. He is offensive Jeff Fisher with fewer playoff appearances. Because remember, Jeff Fisher by his second year, he also made the Super Bowl in his second year. Kyle did in his third, but 1 year semantics. So that's like the San Francisco 49ers here -3.5 and San Francisco 49ers straight up. The next game, the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Cleveland Browns. This one is tough for me because look, the Cleveland Browns, Dearness Johnson, the running back out of South Florida, had a career day. Most rushing yards in a debut since Kareem Hunt back in Week 1 of the 2017 NFL season. And I look at the Cleveland Browns, and I was really impressed with their secondary. I thought that I thought there were moments where they really limited Melvin Gordon offensively. Nobody besides Cortland Sutton really was damaging the Browns through the air. John Johnson with the incredible end zone interception. And the Browns, Case Keenum did his job okay. He threw for 199 yards. He threw for the 1 touchdown to the fullback, and it was a nice overall, quality bounce back game, and one of Kevin Stefanski's better games. But the reason why I'm taking the Steelers is I do not think the Browns, who need to use their running game and their offensive line, will be able to generate enough holes or maintain long enough against the Steelers' defensive front, who is coming off a bye. And Big Ben with the weapons he has in Deontay, Chase Claypool, Pat Freiermuth. You have Eric Ebron, Najee. You have a decent enough offense against this Browns defense, which at times this year has been pretty bad. I think they have a little bit more talent to beat the Browns, where the Browns are beat up and just kind of struggling to get through. And I just think, again, Pittsburgh is coming off their bye week. Ben has one of the best records in the state of Ohio in Steelers history, in NFL history. And I just feel, again, like in this kind of game, I'm going to take Ben over a banged-up Baker, even if he's going to be active to play. He's definitely not 100%. And I'll take a rested Steeler team having 2 weeks to prepare for the Browns against the Browns team that, again, had a little mini by themselves with the Thursday Night Football. But again, I just think Ben's going to outplay Keenum or Baker. They're not nearly going to be able to get enough running yards on the ground to keep the Steelers honest and the Browns committed. And I think with the injuries to Wills and Conklin, if both of them come back, that'll help. But I think the Steelers' defensive line will be a bit too much for Keenum or Baker to handle. I think Baker is in danger of really injuring his shoulder even more after re-aggravating it 2 weeks ago against the Cardinals. Or re-aggravating it 2 weeks ago against the Cardinals, yep. And I think the Steelers hold on for another tough, gritty AFC North knockdown, drag 'em out type brawl in this game. So that's why I like the Pittsburgh Steelers here, plus 3.5, and the Pittsburgh Steelers straight up. The next game, the Philadelphia Eagles over the Detroit Lions. This was a game that I thought about hedging, but at the end of the day, when I look at the Eagles and Lions, this is a game where, again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions won this game. Because the Lions, again, besides 2 weeks ago when they played the Bengals and looked all as bad as an 0-7 football team, that is not an 0-7 football team that is there. It is not. They have been competitive. They were able to get an onside kick. They ran 2 successful fake punts, but it came down to the end, and this is why Jared Goff got traded for Matthew Stafford. With about 4:57 to go, they're at the red zone. The Lions are at the Rams' red zone, and Jared Goff throws a pick right to his former teammate, Jalen Ramsey, while getting knocked down by his other former teammate, Aaron Donald. And I just feel like with the Lions' luck over, the year, they will just somehow find a way to lose this game. The Eagles, have not been great. They've had a lot of really bad moments. That defense can't stop anybody. Derek Carr threw for the second best completion percentage in an NFL game in NFL history at 91.2%, 31 of 34. They lost Miles Sanders to an ankle injury. And I just think Jalen Hurts, he has a lot of decent running skills, but he really can't throw the ball that effectively. I'm not, And it just showed. Also, there was the botched snap fumble. There was another fumble by Kenneth Gainwell. And just the Raiders' offensive line just bullied the Eagles. Just bullied them and bullied them and bullied them. But I honestly feel like for the Eagles' sake, this is the best game I think the Lions have a chance in winning a game for a while. Because I don't think they're obviously better than the Bears. They're not better than the Packers. They're not better than the Vikings. They've already lost all 3 of those teams already. They have other brutal games coming up. If the Lions wanted to get a win, this would be the perfect opponent against the first-year head coach that's not that great, kind of awkward, doesn't really know how to scheme well, will go for onside kicks in the middle of games when they're down by 10 to start the half. But at the end of the day, I just think, again, the Eagles have a couple wins, the Lions don't. And I think for Sirianni's sake and that entire franchise's sake, they need to win this game to finally stop limiting the pressure that's coming out from the Eagles fan base. So that's like the Philadelphia Eagles here, -3, and the Philadelphia Eagles straight up. The next game, the Tennessee Titans over the Indianapolis Colts. This is one to where I am taking the Tennessee Titans to win this game because the Tennessee Titans are just better than the Colts. The Colts have been on a very good run. They've forced at least 2 or more turnovers, or I think at least 3 or 4 turnovers in back-to-back games. I thought they were fantastic defensively. Carson Wentz has the longest active streak in most pass attempts without interception, 170. I thought Jonathan Taylor had a fantastic game against that Niners defensive line. He ran for over 100 yards of a touchdown. There were a few drops by Nikhil Hines, especially on the one wheel route that was at least 30 yards of free and empty grass. And also, I just look at the Titans and go, they're not, I think, gonna fall into the trap of what the Ravens did and what's maybe the Chargers did over the last couple weeks, where the Titans may be considered the best team in the whole AFC conference. I don't think they're gonna let Mike Vrabel's gonna let any of them read their press clippings or read their own reviews. I think he will be motivated to go in Indianapolis and basically put the nail in the AFC South division with how many games are left, the opponents that they have left playing. And I just really feel good about the Titans. Hopefully they get some of their secondary guys won't be back, so that will be something interesting to watch and look forward throughout this game. But I just think also Derrick Henry, another 80 yards. He also probably knew that as a MVP he needs to be able to throw the football, and he showed that by throwing that jump pass to Michael Pruitt in the end zone, which basically led the floodgates open for the Titans to win 27-3 over Kansas City. But I'm taking the Titans here. Derrick Henry usually is dominant against this Colts team. He usually gets at least 100 or 120 yards per game against this Colts defense. I don't know if he'll get it this time, but I just feel like, again, they're going to pound the rock of Henry. I think Tannehill is playing at a better level than Carson Wentz is right now. And I will take the Titans just holistically as a unit with all the pressure they have, the more weapons they have offensively, and the better defensive line. Like Bud Dupree, Danico Autry, they got a lot of pressure on the Chiefs' offensive line. I know the Colts' offensive line is better, so they may do a better job blocking. But I'll take the Titans in this game because I feel like, again, they've been on a great roll, and I feel like for them, this is the trap game, but I think they don't fall in the trap. They play a good, hard-fought game against a division rival who is still coming for your division, even though you have a 2-game lead. Winning that game on Sunday for the Colts puts them 1 game behind the Titans are first, so it's definitely not over yet if the Colts win. But I'll take the Titans here. Better coach, better managed, better running back, and I think Tannehill outplays Wentz in a very tough and competitive game at home for the Colts. So that's why I like the Tennessee Titans here -1 and Tennessee Titans straight up. The next game, the Cincinnati Bengals over the New York Jets. The Bengals are the best team in football. The Bengals are the best team in the AFC. Joe Burrow threw for a career-high 416 yards. For the first time in Zach Taylor's career, he beat the Baltimore Ravens. It was the largest loss in Lamar Jackson's career. And they're playing the Jets, who, after coming off a bye week, got blown out by 40-plus points. There's the largest point differential in the NFL since the merger began. Zach Wilson got hurt early on in the second quarter. He left the game. Later, it turned out to be a mild PCL sprain that will at least knock him out for the next 2 games against the Bengals and Colts, respectively. I just feel like in this game is going to be no contest with Zach not being there. The Bengals have been just rolling through people, and I would say the Bengals are the best team for this primary reason. They have 2 losses, but they're decently respectable losses. Just because in terms of the way they almost came back from Joe Burrow turning the ball over 3 times. And Evan McPherson's football just went a little bit to the right through the left crossbar. The Bengals beat the Packers, and they are those literally 4 plays away from being a 7-0 football team. Where the Jets, who through 6 games have been absolutely dreadful, they haven't even scored a point in the first quarter. The defense can't really stop anybody, and Mike White just looked lost, even with the Patriots losing players as the game went on. I just think for the Bengals, they may fall into the Titan trap. They might underestimate Jets a little bit, but I think with Mike White starting, that's all the ease that you have to know. I don't think Mike White really survives. I think the Jets are going to have to find their 3rd-string quarterback, and they may want to put him in because he might be a better option moving forward for the future. Because after what I saw out of Mike White, I really wasn't that impressed. So that's why I like the Cincinnati Bengals here, -9.5, and Cincinnati Bengals straight up. The next game, the Los Angeles Rams over the Houston Texans. This is just like Rams-Lions. The Texans are a horrible football team. But I will say this, for everybody out there that's watching. Apparently today, David Culley activated Tyrod Taylor off the injured reserve. So I will put this update in here. And I might have said it earlier, but I'll say it again. If Tyrod Taylor is starting, I'm going to change my against the spread line to Houston plus 14.5. In the 2 games that the Texans played under Tyrod, they were able to at least win outright or cover the spread in both of those games. And I just feel like with Tyrod there, with the ones they have, with the confidence they'll have in the position, I think he can play the Rams with a 14-point game. Because I feel like for the Rams, they got caught up in a lot of bad ways. Onside kicks, 2 fake punts executed beautifully by the Lions. I don't think they had the business against the Texans this week. But I think it should be a very, nice, consistent way to end up for the Rams on this bit of a road trip they've had the last few weeks. So that's why I like the Los Angeles Rams here, -14.5, and the Los Angeles Rams straight up. The next game, the Los Angeles Chargers over the New England Patriots. I am taking the Los Angeles Chargers here because they are on a bye, they are rested, and they are motivated after what happened last year when Herbert in his rookie year played the Patriots with Cam Newton starting, and they got shut out 45-0 absolutely dominated through the whole game. I think for the Chargers this time, under Brandon Staley, under Herbert, having all this talent around him, all the confidence and motivation coming back from 2 weeks ago when they got blown out by the Ravens. I think that the Chargers in this game, they hold on and get at least one-score win over a Patriot team that has been pretty good. They've had a couple moments against the Bucs and the Cowboys to where you could argue they could have won, they could have lost. But at the end of the day, they could not make the right plays in the bigger games, and beating up a rookie quarterback, second-year quarterback that doesn't even deserve to be in the league, in Davis Mills, that's not a lot to hang your hat on as the Patriots, as a 3-4 football team. Beating this Chargers team would, and it would definitely give the Pats a nice, big victory to show that they are still in this playoff race at this moment. I will also take the Chargers just because, again, I feel like they're healthier and they've been more consistent than the Pats. So that's why I like the Los Angeles Chargers here, -5.5, and the Los Angeles Chargers straight up. All right, the next two games, the Seattle Seahawks over the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a game to where I took the Seattle Seahawks because they're at home, and I have to trust Pete enough, even with Geno there, that with the weapons he has against this banged-up against this Jaguars defense, which is not very good, their offense, which has lost DJ Chark for the rest of the year due to a fractured ankle, I really believe that the Seahawks should win, but it is Jacksonville. And again, ever since Week 1, they've been more improving each week, where they've been more competitive. They had a 14-point lead on Thursday Night Football a couple weeks ago, and they got the 53-yard field goal to win 2 weeks ago in London to advance forward. But I just feel like with Seattle, their home record isn't that great. I think they should beat the Jags regardless, even if they lose tonight against the Saints. But their home record isn't great, and I feel like Trevor Lawrence, with his talent, with his arm, with his legs, and with James Robinson running the football, and that's one thing Seattle cannot do, is stop the run. I think that it's about a push for me, so that's why I took the Jaguars on the line. So I basically could just kind of like hedge there and at least get something right. But I feel like with the Hawks, they're a better coached team. They have a little bit more of a defensive understanding. They had some momentum coming after tonight's game against the Saints on Monday Night Football. But I will take the Jags here, +3.5. I feel like the Jags will be pretty much pushing the game to the end. And if they're lucky, they might be able to end the game completely off a bad defensive assignment by the Seahawks or many broken tackles by James Robinson II. So that's what I like Jacksonville here, +3.5, but the Seattle Seahawks straight up. The next game, the Denver Broncos over the Washington Football Team. I'm taking Teddy Bridgewater because he's a better quarterback than Heineke. That's it. Bridgewater over Heineke. Heineke, had some ups and downs. He did throw that 40-yard touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin, and he had that great dive at the 1-yard line, but he gave himself up and was about 2 to 3 inches short. They went for it on a pass of 4th down. That was the difference. And I just think for the Broncos, they're having a tough time too. They've had a lot of turnovers, or Teddy Bridgewater's at least turned the ball over 5 times the last 2 games. Something he does not do. But I just feel like with Denver, I'll take the Broncos quarterback over Washington's. It'll be close. And I feel like Heineke, he's had his couple moments against Atlanta and the Giants that he maybe could surprise the people up in the Mile High City. I don't think that will be allowed to form itself under Vic Fangio. But if it does, I think the Vic Fangio era in Denver has to be considered going to an end. Because this team is not very good. And just like the Panthers, they're going on a slide. It's too concerning. So that's why I like the Denver Broncos here to win straight up, but the Washington Football Team +3.5. The next game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the New Orleans Saints. I am taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this game based on the fact that the Bucs have been absolutely dominant the last 4 weeks, holding opponents to 15 or fewer points per game. They have been very good on the running game recently. Tom Brady throwing another 4 touchdowns to no interceptions. 37 times in his career he's done that. He's also thrown for 600 touchdowns. He's the only man in NFL history through the regular season to throw for 600-plus touchdowns. I think he can definitely get up to 650 to 700 if he plays another 2 to 3 years. And with the way he's been talking, I feel like he's been very confident that he's going to be able to play for the next couple years. And I just think with the Saints, I don't know what I'm going to get from them. They could, again, it's odd, even week. It's an odd week, so I'm going to continue that trend. Like I said before, last week, if it's an odd week, take the Saints to win. If it's an even week, take their opponent. I'm going to take their opponent here off that superstition. And I just feel like for the Saints, Jameis is not Drew. And even though Jameis may be able to throw the ball deeper and not like burn the Bucs secondary or whatever's left of it right now, but I just think, again, in that kind of way, the Todd Bowles will adjust. And putting the ball more in Jameis' hands should be the detriment of the Saints moving forward. And I just feel like for Tampa Bay, they've been dominant. They're going to get some of their defenders back. They should get Antonio Brown back. They may get Lavonte David back, which would be really nice. And I think, again, the Bucs, they have the confidence in the game last time in New Orleans. I don't think Brady and Jameis have ever played each other, so I think it's going to be a nice, cool moment. But I feel like for Tom and this Bucs team, they are just way too dominant. They have way too many consistencies going on right now, and I just can't trust that Saints defense from what I've seen of it through the parts of the season so far. So that's all like Tampa Bay here, -5. Tampa Bay is straight up. Then the final two games, the Dallas Cowboys over the Minnesota Vikings. The Cowboys have the better offense than the Vikings do. That's it. The Cowboys have the better offense. I think their defense will be rested. They're going to get Lyle Collins back. The Cowboys have played Minnesota over the last few years, and I think they've won the last 2 or 3 straight games against the Cowboys. I think Dak has never lost to the Vikings at home so far yet. I feel like Zeke and Polish were able to run pretty well. Andy Dalton last year, with most of the same Cowboys team, went into Minnesota and they beat them. So I think with how improved his defense is, I think either Jefferson or Thielen are going to get shut down by Trayvon Diggs, who is my Defensive Player of the Year candidate and is tied with Rod Woodson for the most interceptions through a season's 6 games in NFL history. I think he'll definitely get another one on Kirk Cousins. And lastly, just as we all know, even though Kirk Cousins has got the primetime jinx off his back, it is still Kirk Cousins in primetime television, and he is one of the worst winning quarterbacks, and one of the worst quarterbacks in that situation in the league. And I think the Cowboys, in a very high-scoring game, pull out at least a field goal win in a great shootout game then end week 8. So that's like Dallas -2.5 and Dallas straight up. And finally, the Chiefs over the Giants. I am taking the Chiefs because the Giants, I thought, exposed Carolina for how bad they are compared to how good the Giants are. And the Chiefs, if they have any pride left, I know their defense is horrible. They got blown up by the Titans 27-3. Tannehill outplayed Mahomes by a mile. They already had 17 turnovers this year. And for a team last year, at the end of the season, that's how many turnovers they had through the whole year. Through only 7 games, they've already had 17 turnovers. Most of them committed by Patrick Mahomes through interceptions or fumbles. I just can't, if they lose, and I will say this, I'm taking the Giants +10 because the Chiefs just seem like they can't cover anything, or they play a lot of different people, and it's going to be, one score down near at the end of the game, regardless of who has what the offensive talent are, who has the ball. And Daniel Jones and the Giants, they've had moments this year where they've been competitive, they've been able to move the ball, they make it Kenny Galladay, Shepard, Slayton, they make it them back. They make it Andrew Thomas, well, not Andrew Thomas, but they make it a lot of people back to make this game a somewhat competitive game. And just with that defense alone, I think the running backs are going to have huge holes to run through. And it's basically going to be Patrick Mahomes or the Giants getting Daniel Jones to fumble. We're going to have one turnover that wins them the game, that gives them an extra possession. And the Chiefs, go into the next week at 4-4, again, up against the toughest part of their schedule. Packers, Raiders, Cowboys. If they don't win this game, and I think they're going to probably win the next 3, I didn't see how all these teams do. But if they don't win this one, their season's done. They are not going to make the playoffs. Because I'm expecting at that point 4 straight losses by the Chiefs. Also, it's Monday Night Football, and Patrick Mahomes has played pretty well on some big Monday Night games. He hasn't been perfect on Monday Night Football. I think the last couple times he's played, he's won 2 or 3 of them, or he's only lost 1 time. I think that was the 51-48 game back in 2018 against the Rams. Besides that, I don't think he's lost on Monday Night Football since then. And I feel like the Chiefs at home, understanding what's at stake, beating up the NFC East. Actually, if you think about it, 2 of their 3 wins are against the NFC East. So they're 2-0 in this division. They can try to go for the arguable clean sweep of the whole bottom dweller of the NFC East. I think they get that done. But the Giants are just too good, in my opinion, or especially defensively, to hold the Chiefs. And offensively, they'll get enough with Daniel Jones through his legs and his arms that keeps us within a 10-point game. So that's why I like the Kansas City Chiefs here straight up at the New York Giants plus 10. And that is it. So like, comment, rate, subscribe. Please check out the NFL YouTube Prognosticators page. Check out other great prognosticators like Bridgewater's Finest, Keith Bailey, Half Moon's Picks, Big Sports Talkin', RB Take with Philly, the MJ Take, Sports Fan Entertainment, Matthew Oliver Sports, the Goat House. Check out all those guys and get Fire and Broom Sports. Check out all their predictions. They make great predictions like I do every single week. And that is it. So until next time, until week 9, this is Matt the NFL Fanatic signing off. Until next time, so long.